A meditative mind is silent. It is not the silence which thought can conceive of. It is not the silence of a still evening. It is the silence when thought, with all its images, its words and perceptions, has entirely ceased. This meditative mind is the religious mind. The religion that is not touched by the church, the temples, or by chance. The religious mind is the explosion of love. It is this love that knows no separation. To it far as near, it is not the one, the many, but rather that state of love in which all division ceases. Like beauty, it is not of the measure of words. For this silent alone the meditative mind acts. On every table there were daffodils, young, fresh, just out of the garden, with the bloom of spring on them still. On a side table there were lilies, creamy white, with sharp yellow centres. To see this creamy white and the brilliant yellow of those many daffodils was to see the blue sky ever expanding, limitless, silent. Almost all the tables were taken by people talking very loudly and laughing. At a table nearby, a woman was surreptitiously feeding her dog with a meat she could not eat. They all seemed to have huge helpings, and it was not a pleasant sight to see people eating. Perhaps it may be barbarous to eat publicly. A man across the room had filled himself with wine and meat and was just lighting a big fat cigar, and a look of beatitude came over his fat face. His equally fat wife lit a cigarette. Both of them appeared to be lost to the world. And there they were, the yellow daffodils, and nobody seemed to care. They were there for decorative purposes that had no meaning at all. And as you watched them, their yellow brilliance filled the noisy room. Colour has this strange effect upon the eye. It wasn't so much that the eye absorbed the colour, as that the colour seemed to fill your being. You were that colour. You didn't become that colour. You were of it, without identification or name. The anonymity, which is innocence. Where there is no anonymity, there is violence in all its different forms. But you forgot the world, the smoke-filled room, the cruelty of man, and the red, ugly meat. Those shapely daffodils seem to take you beyond all time. Love is like that. In it there is no time, space, or identity. It is the identity that breeds pleasure and pain. It is the identity that brings hate and war and builds a wall around people, around each other, each family and community. Man reaches over the wall to the other man, but he too is enclosed. Morality is a word that bridges the two, and so it becomes ugly and vain. Love isn't like that, like the wood across the way, always renewing itself because it is always dying. There is no permanency in it, which thought seeks. It is a movement which thought can never understand, touch, or feel. The feeling of thought and the feeling of love are two different things. The one leads to bondage and the other to the flowering of goodness. The flowering is not within the area of any society, or any culture, or of any religion, whereas the bondage belongs to all societies, religious beliefs and faith in otherness. Love is anonymous, therefore not violent. Pleasure is violent, for desire and will are moving factors in it. Love cannot be gotten by thought or by good works. The denial of the total process of thought becomes the beauty of action, which is love. Without this, there is no bliss of truth. And over there, on the table, were the daffodils.